Welcome back, horror fans, cinephiles, and Giallo enthusiasts. It's Tanner Leeser, your host for The King in Giallo. This is episode 4 of the Forgotten Giallo film series, 1965, and I've got 2 Gialli I'd like to highlight. As always, thanks in no small part to Troy Howarth's book on Giallo cinema, So Deadly, So Perverse, 50 Years of Italian Giallo Films, Volume 1, 1963 to 1973. Like this video and subscribe to The King in Giallo, and do ring that notification bell so those lords of the algorithm may bestow their blessing upon me, and you continue to be presented with weekly Giallo content. This all helps me build my brand here as I fight to get to 1,000 subscribers and get one step closer to monetization here on YouTube. On to the video. The Forgotten Giallo films for 1965 will spotlight 2 films. 2 other 1965 Giallo films I will do deep dives for. Libido, directed by Ernesto Gastaldi, and The Possessed by Luigi Bazzoni. The first Giallo showcase for 1965 is The Monster of Venice, or more popularly known in the US as The Embalmer, directed by Dino Tavel, written by Antonio Walter, Giovanni Battista Musetto, Paolo Lombardo, and Dino Tavella, and music by Marcello Giganti. The cast includes Maureen Lidgard-Brown, Luigi Martocci, billed as Gin Mart, Alcide Gazzotto, Alba Brotto, and Elmo Caruso. The plot is about a madman preying on and abducting the women in Venice. Andrea is a daring reporter hell-bent on solving the mystery, but must deal with the police who seem less interested than they are capable. While Andrea follows lead after lead, the lunatic continues their abductions of women and hides them in an underground lair where he keeps them on perverse display in his dedication to beauty and death. But before the women are enshrined, they are embalmed. Troy Howarth describes the film as being easily forgettable for the era and heavily derivative of 1953's House of Wax, starring Vincent Price, which was itself a remake of 1933's Mystery of the Wax Museum. Despite using a similar template from these films, the movie does very little to make a name for itself, scrapping any originality of its own or invention. The pacing could rival that of Fingernail Growth, and the scenes meant to thrill rather bore. The director pads out the running time with gratuitous shots of Venice, which would later be done masterfully in the 1972 Giallo, Who Saw Her Die, directed by Aldo Lado. The cast is fittingly as bland as the movie. Luigi Martocci's character of Andrea is hardly a likable hero, and his best attribution to the film is his pseudonym, which at least warrants a snort. The cast of women in the film float through it with seemingly more interest in the catering, if there even was any provided. The most suspenseful aspect of the film is in the long wait for the credits to roll. Dino Tavella is only credited with one other film, a strange war flick from the same year entitled Una sporca guerra, a dirty war. This movie did not receive a US release, or if it did, no one talks about it. Tavella's style in this film, which may be generous to say, is merely his economical and conservative use of locking the camera in place and capturing everything within the frame. The horror and suspense is mishandled. The lighting is uninspired and simply just there to serve the bare minimum purpose of lighting, and neglects to utilize the underground locales of the killer's lair, which could have at least earned some points in the way of being atmospheric or creepy. Howarth says it is by no means the worst of the worst, but it certainly doesn't warrant a viewing as it never actually comes to life. Summed up in one word, the film could simply be called tedious. The Monster of Venice is available on Region 1 DVD from Retro Media Image Entertainment, but can also be viewed online in its entirety. On to the final film for 1965, Night of Violence, also called Call Girls 66, directed by Roberto Mauri, who also wrote the film along with Eduardo Mularja, with music by Aldo Pija. The cast of players are Alberto Lupo, Marilu Tolo, Lisa Gastoni, Helena Chanel, and Nerio Bernardi. The plot is about a lunatic clad in black stalking the sex workers around Rome. Eyewitness descriptions are of no help as they all differ, leading to the assumption that the psychopath must be wearing disguises. Commissario Ferretti takes on the case, determined to deliver justice, but the slayings continue. Like the previous film, Night of Violence owes itself to another film. In this case, it is Blood and Black Lace from Mario Bava in 1964. Despite this, the film is in stark black and white and is more geared toward the police procedural murder mystery angle. There's also a plethora of red herrings, but whereas the red herrings in Blood and Black Lace lend an aura of believability to their motives, here they are too forced and seem like obvious distractions. The murder scene are also lackluster compared to the brutal slayings in Bava's masterpiece. The direction is flat, and the writing focuses too much on the investigation. The main character, sadly, is lacking in any characteristics which could hold the audience's engagement throughout the duration of the flick, and the women, whether they're potential victims or actual victims, are not written nor acted in a way which draws empathy towards them. The pacing is also very slow in this one, frigid even, and there is a definite lack of much stylistic flair or setups to engage with. Nods to Pasolini and Fellini don't add anything and are hammered in. Roberto Mauri was born in 1924, made his first film in 1959, and over his career he dabbled in about every genre that was popular. 1962's Slaughter of the Vampires, a gothic horror, 1964's The Invincible Gladiators, a pepla, this film, which is a giallo, 1970's Wanted Sabata, a spaghetti western, plus many more. His final film was in 1980. He did co-write one more giallo, Clap, You're Dead, in 1974 during the Giallo boom, but this was uninspired and less inspiring. The person in the cast working the hardest seems to be Marilu Tolo, playing a sister of one of the victims who becomes an amateur sleuth. She was born in 1944 and debuted in Lucio Fulci's Howlers of the Dock, 1960, and appeared in Giulio Chesti's Django Kill, 1967, Mario Bava's Roy Colt and Winchester Jack, 1969, Damiano Damiani's Confessions of a Pacific Captain, 1971, and Dario Argento's Le Cinque Giornate, The 5 Days, 1973, as well as his television series Door into Darkness, 1973. She appeared in one more giallo, one I rather like actually, My Dear Killer, 1972, directed by Tonino Valeri. Night of Violence doesn't seem to have a home video release, and I couldn't find it streaming online, at least not right now. And those are the forgotten giallo films for 1965. I hope you learned something new. If you are interested in watching these movies, look them up online. If you do watch them or have already seen them, I invite you to leave your thoughts on them in the comments. Upcoming content on The King in Giallo will be the review and gialli tally for Ernesto Gastaldi's 1965 proto-giallo Libido. Thank you very much for your continued support. This is Tanner Leeser for The King in Giallo, and if nothing else, I'll see you next time.